Teen cell phone addiction has become an important issue facing parents. For parents with a teenager, this is not surprising. Have you ever had frustrating confrontations with your child about their cell phone usage? Probably more than a few. Cell phone addiction is so common, it's hard to overcome because using mobile devices is now an endemic part of the modern world. Understanding teen cell phone addiction. Cell phone addiction is a modern phenomenon. It puts many traditional assumptions to the test. In the past, addiction meant something different to parents. Parents worried about cocaine or heroin or nicotine. Today is different. Seattle Public Schools is suing media companies, including TikTok and Meta, saying the tech giant's misconduct has been a substantial factor in causing the youth mental health crisis. This mental health crisis is no accident. It is the result of defenders' deliberate choices and affirmative actions to design and market their social media platforms to attract youth, the lawsuit states. Defenders have successfully exploited the vulnerable brains of youth, hooking tens of millions of students across the country into positive feedback loops of excessive use and abuse of defenders' social media platforms. The complaint, which was filed Friday, says the lawsuit alleges that defenders have violated Washington State's public nuisance law. Social media companies are saying they have focused heavily in creating safe experiences for children across our platforms and have introduced strong protections and dedicated features to prioritize their well-being, Google spokesperson Jose Castaneda said in a statement. It's going down. These cell phones are a relatively new phenomenon, and we're really not adept at using these things. They can be a tool that can push man forward or it can hold men back from growing. A Facebook whistleblower, Francis Hoggins, last year testified that the tech giant is aware that some of its platforms are harmful to certain populations, including teenagers, but targets them anyway. So we're seeing a showdown in the courts with these social media companies and the public schools of Seattle, but it's just a larger concern to mankind at large because these cell phones, they have a lot of power. They offer youth a lot of attention, a lot of information that they probably shouldn't be exposed to. They got access to. A lot of youth stay up overnight on the cell phones. Teen cell phone addiction has become an important issue facing parents. For parents with a teenager, this is not surprising. We already know, we see our kids that everywhere they go, they got their cell phones with them. They got their face in their cell phones. They can't hold a conversation. You can't really talk to them. They're distracted. They're just, really waiting for you to kind of shut your mouth so they can get back to scrolling through their social media pages or doing whatever it is they do on their cell phones. This is like the crack epidemic of the 80s. When those people were using crack, they were really distracted. They didn't care about nothing but the crack. And that's how these teenagers are now. They don't care nothing about anything except the cell phone, the social media platforms, the text, the tweets, the music, the YouTube, and all of that. They're very distracted. Teenage cell phone addictions goes well beyond texting and talking. It includes apps, games, and in particular, social media. For teens, cell phones have become a way to comment and criticize, approve, and admire. They are not always communicating with friends. Often they are commenting on their activities. They are checking for likes and responses to their own posts. There's a biological component to this behavior. The brain reacts to the cell phone as if it were a drug. Studies have shown that both the cell phone ringing and the alert of a new text causes the brain to release dopamine. Wow, that's big. So it's like a hit of crack, man. They get a text, the phone rings like a hit of crack to their brain is releasing that dopamine. That's real critical. Teen cell phone addiction, a behavior disorder. The clinical community defines cell phone addiction as a behavior disorder. Such a disorder means obsessive use that affects everyday functioning. Like any addiction, once triggered, it can be quite difficult to stop. We're seeing this phenomenon here in America and probably all over the world where our teens are basically glued to their cell phones, and it's taken away from their productivity. It's taken away from them getting involved in physical activities and tuning into their schools and studies and things like that, and just interacting with real people on a real live platform or a real live playing field. Does your teen repeat any of the following behavior over and over again. They could be an indicator of cell phone addiction. Texting with friends, we see that a lot. A recent poll reveals that 50% of teens believe they are addicted to their cell phones. More than a third of teens try to cut down the amount of time spent on the cell phones. Teen cell phone addiction statistics. 59% of parents feel their teens are addicted to their mobile devices. 76% of parents check their mobile devices at least. Teens check their mobile devices at least hourly. 72% of teens feel an urgent need to immediately respond to text. So we're seeing how the cell phone is just gripping the attention of our youngins, and we really got to be aware of this. We need to write some comments, man. If you got some suggestions of what we can do, because this is just the beginning of this pandemic. Teenage cell phone addiction takes kids out of the moment. Cell phone addiction drains our attention. Teens' intense focus on cell phones distracts them. They are not present in their everyday life. Once cell phone addiction sets in, behaviors can change. Grades at school can drop, and participation in extracurricular activities can diminish. That's an important one right there, because we need our teens to be active, man. We need them to be hands-on. We need them to engage with real-life situations and real-life things in order for them to learn and to grow to be responsible adults. And so far, we're not seeing that due to the cell phone usage of these teens. Teen cell phone addiction and co-occurring disorders. Teen cell phone addiction goes hand-in-hand with mental health and substance use issues. For example, anxiety increases when the cell phone is not readily available. Moreover, depression deepens with the lack of human contact. So, they're showing studies. There's proof that the cell phone can be harmful if we don't control the use of it. Even for, grown people, it's affecting us. It's leading to a lot of murders, people dropping locations, and it's changing the game so fast that the police and authorities really can't keep up with it. And I believe that strongly. That's why the Seattle School District is suing, because they need some legislation, some laws in place, and some help dealing with this pandemic that we're seeing for us. These kids being distracted in school and having mental health issues like depression and whatnot. So it really needs some attention. Some attention needs to be given to this. We need to stop as adults, and we need to start taking this very seriously, because it's so much like the crack epidemic. It reminds me of it. I lived through that. I saw what crack did to the community. I saw what it did to our neighborhoods, and I'm seeing the cell phones have the same kind of impact, because these kids use them to commit crimes. They use them to escalate conflicts and things like that. They use them to find people and attack people and bully people. And it's just terrible. It's a lot of weight on their shoulders. When I was in high school, I know it was a lot of pressure to dress a certain way, to be presentable and things like that. Just inside the school, a lot of times if I wasn't fresh to death, I didn't want to go. I might have skipped a class or two, especially if it was a class where one of those girls that I liked was in it. So these kids nowadays, they're taking pictures, posting them on social media. So it's like they have the whole world watching what they're wearing. At least in their minds, that's how they feel. So they want to look a certain way. They want to present themselves a certain way. And they want to be perceived a certain way. And they're hanging on likes. They're hanging on the comments that people leave on their posts. And these things really have an impact on their mental psyche, on their mental health. It can cause a lot of depression and things like that. So I think you should definitely limit how much your teen uses the cell phone. Check it in at night. Don't give it back to them until they finish their schoolwork or they come home from school or something like that. A lot of times it's dangerous out here, so we use that as an excuse to give our teens the cell phone so they can take it to school, so they can contact us if they're in danger and things like that. And I believe that's also a part of this lawsuit. So some legislation can come where schools can have a system where teenagers and kids can contact their parents without having their own cell phones to do it. They can go somewhere, use a cell phone to make a call to their parents, let their parents know they're all right, let their parents know if something happened, if they're not feeling well or whatever the case may be, versus having their own cell phone in the school with them all day, glued to their hand, distracting them from their studies and other activities. So this is major. I finally realized it. People are prisoners of their phones. That's why they are called cell phones. I love that. It makes a lot of sense. So talk to me, reach out in the comments. Let me know what you think. Any of my guys out there that's been around the crack epidemic, that done seen heroin hit the hood, seen the crystal meth hit the hood, and seen the results that it had on older people and younger people alike, and how it just devastated generations, you can definitely see how the cell phone has the potential to cause the same type of disaster in all communities. But the flip side of it is there's so many good things that the cell phone offer. If we are equipped with the tools and the mental faculties to use it responsibly and creatively, it can really push us forward, can push mankind forward so fast, but at the same time, it can destroy all the progress that we have already made thus far. So let me know what you guys think. If you have this problem, if you have a teen that's going through this, just leave something in the comments. Click that subscription button, click that like bell. Don't do me greasy, man up.